Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Some time ago, I did guides to the Guardian of the Chimera, Hydra, and Phoenix, and for some reason I just forgot to do the Minotaur. We're going to cover the base stats, the arena hazards, the skills and abilities of the Minotaur, strategies to beat him, and I'm also going to demonstrate a full fight against the Minotaur, which has the Guardian's aid, pull the Hydra in as well, and additionally I will show in slow motion some of the most dangerous skills. So, a quick overview of the fight. The Minotaur hits like a truck, mostly physical damage with some lightning. There are two types of arena hazards to manage too. Rock falls, which the Minotaur creates himself through his slam attack, and additionally a lightning beam that we'll get to at later on. The Minotaur has two attacks that are capable of one-shotting many players. You can build tanky enough to survive these, even to survive critical hits from them, but you'll generally want to dodge these. Minotaur also loves to pollute the arena with rock falls. He can have as many as 4 of these active at a time, and so the arena can get really crowded. The Minotaur also attacks super slowly. He has a base attack speed of once per 1.755 seconds. This is very, very slow. This means that he is going to commit to an attack location. You'll see a start of an animation, and if you're in a position where you don't think you want to get hit by this ability, you can dodge out of the way of it. You can simply not be there when it connects. You can dodge absolutely every attack of the Minotaur if you are extremely skillful and you're willing to take the fight super slowly, because this will severely reduce the amount of damage that you can output. However, you can't necessarily do this with only 1 hit point, because there will be some arena hazards in the form of small little elementals that will do a tiny little bit of chip damage to you. So you still need to have at least, some hit points, but you can avoid ever being hit by the Minotaur himself. Base stats of the Minotaur. So just be aware, map mods can scale these a lot. The Minotaur is immune to knockback and stun, cannot be slowed below 70% of his base action speed. So that means that 1.755 seconds per attack. You can't make this any slower than about 2.507 seconds per attack. That's through things like chill, freeze, and the like. His base physical damage is between about the range of about 4,400 to 5,500. Now, some attacks modify this, so his base attacks deal this amount of damage, but 30% of it's converted to lightning, whereas some of his other skills do 60% more damage or 50% more damage and do all physical damage. His critical strike chance is 5% and critical strike multiplier is 130%, so that means it's normal damage plus an extra 30% more. This means that serious physical mitigation is needed, otherwise some of his hits can and will one-shot you. He has about 33 million hit points, and for purposes of inflicting ailments on him, like slow and shock, his ailment threshold is 12.8 million. So that means that if you shock him, your shocks will treat his hit points as being 12.8 million, but his actual hit points are a bit higher than that. He has a resist profile of 50% resistance to fire, cold, and lightning, and 30% to chaos baseline. This is increased considerably if he gets endurance charges or if there are map mods in play that cause him to have increased resistances. He also has a 66% mitigation of curses on him. So, recommended player stats for this fight. These are minimums, in my opinion, for comfortably killing the Minotaur in softcore on a scoured map. Experienced players can do it with less, more is always better, and of course in hardcore you probably want higher. 400,000 DPS against Minotaur's resist profile is my starting point. 600,000 recommended if you can only DPS from specific ranges. The ability to survive a non-crit burrow, which in a worst case scenario deals 8,800 physical damage. So a couple of things that can help with this. Level 19 or higher Steel Skin will eat at least 1,946 damage. But you need to get the rest from endurance charges or other sources of physical damage reduction, raw life or energy shield, wind dancer, mind over matter if they fit your build. Chaos Golem can help as well, just taking a little bit of the edge off the damage by soaking 3 to 5% depending upon the level of the Chaos Golem gem. You want an instant move skill. You will also want enough life recovery, evasion, block, dodge, etc. to endure his auto attacks. Blind helps a lot here because it will mean that a lot of those auto attacks won't hit you. So next, let's talk the arena hazards. You will see these when we show the whole fight. I'm not going to... I will also point out that during that fight, I very deliberately get hit by one of these, and you will see the devastating slow that I suffer as a result. So this slide does not apply to the Minotaur when you're fighting him outside of his base arena. So if you're fighting the Minotaur in the context of a Metamorph encounter, a Ritual encounter, Guardian's Aid encounter, or Maven's Invitation the Formed, this section doesn't apply. At 80, 60, 40, and 20% of his health, the Minotaur's arena partially electrifies. This will take place clockwise from the north, so north first, east second, south third, and west fourth. These electric beams deal pretty easily shaken off damage, but they're much more dangerous than the raw hit point loss that they cause. They inflict a devastating slow and a severe 40% shock. You want to avoid these at almost all costs. If you're absolutely desperate, then dashing into them is better than being hit by a burrow or a slam. But if you are playing in hardcore and you get clipped by one of these, immediately log out. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. Just log out straight away. If you're in softcore, then it's less essential to log out at that point, but you are in definite danger of taking a 10% XP hit. So yeah, the video will show me being deliberately hit, and just pay attention to how long the slow lasts and how severe it is. The shock is more manageable because, while you're shocked, you obviously don't want to get hit by the Minotaur at all while you're shocked, but you can survive it. But the slow is really mean. Okay, so we're going to talk skills, and we're going to start with Burrow. Let me demonstrate this skill twice. Firstly, we're going to show it at 100% speed, where it's going to take about 1.755 seconds to happen. And then we're going to show it at 40% speed, where it's going to be stretched out over a longer time frame. Pay attention to the Minotaur going underground, and then the Minotaur arising and erupting out of the earth somewhere else. That's the skill. Okay, so this is Minotaur's most powerful skill, 60% more damage multiplier on it. So this means that it deals a baseline 8,000 physical damage, non-crit, 10,400 crit, and if the Minotaur rolls high, it can do 10% more damage than that. This is never used if the player is close to the Minotaur and has a 5-second cooldown. The Minotaur locks in on the player's position, fixates on it, then goes underground. 1,755 milliseconds later, he emerges, dealing tremendous physical damage in a small radius. This radius is affected by map mods that increase area, but the graphical area that it shows does not grow, and so that can make certain map mods really dangerous. We'll get to this later. The solution here is to treat this like the Shaper Slam. Once he burrows, you need to move. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. Don't try and tank this, just get the heck out. He's targeting your old location. You've got 1,755 milliseconds to move or die. It's slower and more survivable than the Shaper's similar move, but it's much harder to see. It doesn't have a clear audio cue. There is an audio tell, but it's not really clear like the Shaper's call of erased by misery. Instead, this move is quite hard to see. The big danger is that the Minotaur initiates this move when he is off screen or when you are slowed. So the second skill is the Slam. Again, let's show it twice, once at normal speed and then again at 40% speed. And this is a two-part attack with a 10-second cooldown. There is a powerful frontal attack that starts with a wind-up. This wind-up is really obvious and there is plenty of time to dodge it, and I highly recommend you do. This will leave enduring crap on the ground in the form of a large area where rocks will fall. Each rock deals moderate damage, but it's actually the powerful frontal attack that can one-shot you. This deals 150% of baseline damage. So it's a powerful hit. It's also all physical damage. This slam takes the full 1.755 seconds of all of the Minotaur's attacks, but the crap that he leaves on the ground lasts a full 35 seconds. It's also scaled by AoE mods. The best way to handle the first one of these is to walk behind the Minotaur after it goes off. Don't be like so close to the Minotaur that you can hug him either. You want to be a little bit further away behind him, and you want to get there during that 1.755 second wind-up period. And when I keep saying 1.755 seconds, remember that mods that increase the Minotaur's speed will make that faster. The second one's a bit harder to counter though, because you can't just duck behind the Minotaur while rocks are falling there. I mean, you can. It is still an option. The rock falls aren't super deadly, but doing so, dodging the second one often requires repositioning to another part of the arena. At that point, the Minotaur will probably burrow next because he loves doing that. His AI is to burrow when possible when you are a fair way away from him. And so that means you will then have to be really careful to bait him carefully to another part of the arena. And when he burrows, you'll have to counter that burrow as well. He has some other moves as well. There's a default attack and there's a sweep. Let's watch the sweep now, once at full speed, once at 40%. These deal base damage, and both of them do base damage, so there's no multiplier on the damage, and both take 1.755 seconds to use. They have one difference though to the other moves, as well as doing less damage. They convert 30% of the damage to lightning. As most players will have much more lightning resistance than they have physical mitigation, this generally reduces the damage these attacks do and makes them less dangerous. However, they can shock as a result, and so it is quite beneficial for this fight to have a flask that triggers an automatic shock removal. So if you've got a trigger upon becoming shocked, cleanse shocks a flask, that is a really useful thing to have for this. Small elementals will also spawn during this during the arena fight. These grant flask charges on death, and they aren't very dangerous. They're at most dangerous actually if you're a energy shield based character, where they might just interfere with your energy shield recharge. So strategies. If you're familiar with the Cyrus encounter, you might recognize some similarity in these strategies. The key thing is that you don't want the Minotaur off screen from you in case he burrows. That's very similar to how you don't want Cyrus off screen from you because he could fire a die beam at you, and you won't know which way to dodge. The most dangerous time is re-engaging after being far from the boss. Again, this is the same as Cyrus, especially when you need to cross electric beams yourself in order to either avoid a rockfall or close back to the Minotaur. Bait the Minotaur to you if necessary. This is not a race, it's a marathon. It is perfectly fine to bait a Minotaur to come to you rather than exposing yourself to being hit by that devastating burrow attack. Listen for the burrow audio cue, which is not overly clear and does quite often get drowned out by other effects, especially if you're doing things like killing the elemental ads with Herald of Ice, then that will definitely drown out the burrow audio cue. But if you can get used to picking that up, it'll be really useful for you. Additionally, stand close to the Minotaur, even if you're playing a long-range build. Usually you'll be able to do this just fine, and blind him if you need to do so to be able to save yourself from taking so much damage. I highly recommend that if you're learning this fight, that you'll want to link a secondary skill. This is not a skill that needs to do any meaningful amount of damage, but you want to have a skill that is linked to Culling Strike and is also linked to blind support. This will allow you to take down that last phase where the Minotaur's got all 4 of the lightning beams up as quickly as possible. So, as soon as the Minotaur falls under 10%, you can just cull him. And additionally, it also provides you with the ability to keep him blinded. The other thing you can do if you're playing a movement skill that is able to be used with blind support, maybe you want to consider linking your move skill to blind support for that reason. Again, all these things will just make the Minotaur less capable of doing quite as much damage to you. When you're inside the rockfall, zip behind him unless that's rockfall 2. In that case, I suggest leaving that quadrant of the arena and baiting the Minotaur to you. Decoy Totem is great for baiting. Additionally, if you lose control of the fight, like let's say that there's just more and more rockfalls coming in, and this comes up especially in conjunction with Maven Witnessed Minotaur. Maven Witnessing the Minotaur will occasionally cause a duplicate attack, which will do a slam. If you find yourself in this situation, then what you can do is run diagonally opposite the Minotaur in the arena. So if the Minotaur is in the southwest quadrant of the arena, what you want to do is just at high move speed and using dashes to get past any of the electric barriers that are up, run to the northeast and then just catch your breath. Recover all the things that you can recover with time, such as maybe you've got the Rizlatha Pantheon up and you'll recover all your life flask charges, but also while a Minotaur is off screen from you, he won't be slamming you, and so that means that you will not be getting any more rockfalls starting. However, all of the rockfalls that are within a 2-screen radius of you will continue to time out. And so that means that when you re-engage the Minotaur, most of the rockfalls will have timed out. Wait a full 35 seconds if you need to. Ideally, you won't need to do that, but while you're learning the fight, there's no shame in taking it slow and learning it that way. So that's something else that can help you out. Anyways, let's talk aggravating factors, things that make this fight harder than it would normally be. The Minotaur scales a lot with certain map mods, and the ones that I fear the most are Overlords, Titans, Fleet, and of Giants. So these each modify 1 or 2 of the boss action speed, the damage, and the AoE that the boss has. There's also the mod Savage, which is always a scary map mod, and then there's mods that your build just can't do, like Reflect and the like. If you can't beat Reflect, then you can't beat Reflect. So keep these mods in mind. Minotaur is also very scary in tighter terrain. This only comes up in conjunction with the Guardian's Aid mod. So Guardian's Aid is in the Uncharted Realms, and it can cause you to fight the Minotaur in addition to one of the other Shaper Guardians. He is at his absolute worst in the Phoenix's arena because the Rockfalls take up a larger percentage of the space. The Guardian of the Hydra is also very scary alongside the Minotaur. This comes up again only in conjunction with Guardian's Aid or with Maven's Invitation the Formed. This is due to the Hydra having a get behind me or take devastating damage move, whilst the Minotaur makes moving to the locations that are safe from the Hydra much more dangerous. So for instance, if the Hydra has her back against a wall and has or in the small area behind the Hydra there is a rockfall, then it can be very difficult to deal with the Hydra's forking shot. And that can put you in severe danger. So that's something to keep in mind there if you're fighting two of the Guardians at once. The Guardian of the Hydra and the Guardian of the Minotaur are terrifying together. If you're fighting all four of them at once, such as in the Maven's Invitation the Formed, then I highly recommend that you take out the Hydra or the Minotaur first. It doesn't really matter which one, just get one of those two off the table as soon as possible, and then the rest of the fight will be much more controllable. Okay, so that's all I've got. Let's watch the whole fight, and that will be the end of the video. If you've got any comments or questions, definitely fire away below. If you would like me to redo the Chimera, the Phoenix, and the Hydra in the new format, also let me know. And also let me know if there's other bosses that you think I need to do a guide for. I don't feel I know the Maven fight well enough to do a guide for it. And I generally find myself recommending Don the Crown's guide if you are wanting to do Cyrus. That's the reason I don't have those yet. But if you think there's other bosses like maybe Azaro or Kitava or something like that, that would be useful to have a guide for, definitely fire away below with that information. May your Varlorbs have interesting results.